Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
This is part one of a two-part series on the Israel-Iran war. The second part will be published tomorrow. Do tune in tomorrow to listen to that one too.
Hello and welcome to this episode of All Things Policy. Today we are examining the escalating tensions and military exchanges between Israel and Iran. The Middle East today stands at a dangerous crossroads. In June 2025, the long-simmering shadow conflict between Israel and Iran erupted into open warfare, with Israel launching unprecedented airstrikes deep inside Iran and Tehran responding with a barrage of missiles against Israeli cities and military targets. This dramatic escalation has not only shaken the region, but also raised urgent questions about the future of nuclear security, the risk of wider war, and the role of global powers like the United States. As the world watches anxiously, the stakes for regional stability, global security, and the evolving nature of modern warfare have never been higher. In this episode, we break down how we got here, what's happening on the ground, the strategic calculations on both sides, and what these events mean for the geopolitics of the Middle East and beyond, and for regional stability and international security. And to discuss all of this, I have today as my guest Yusuf Unjhawala, a mechanical engineer by qualification and a businessman by profession. Yusuf is an adjunct scholar at the Takshashila Institution. He has a keen interest in defense, geopolitics, and strategic affairs, and has studied keenly and written extensively on the topic of today's podcast. Welcome, Yusuf. Great to have you on this podcast.
Thanks, Arindam. Great to be on your show.
Yeah, so this is a very evolving situation, quite a few dynamic aspects here, but let's just dive in and look at some historical aspect to this conflict. So what helps explain what triggered the recent escalation from covert operations and proxy conflicts to direct military confrontation between Israel and Iran? And why is this moment different from past flare-ups? So it would help if you could give a timeline and history of the conflict between Israel and Iran, including the nuclear weapon angle.
Yeah, Arindam, I mean, the history goes back just after the Iranian Revolution in 1979. And the regime over there has it has declared Israel as its arch enemy, calls for the wiping of Israel from the map, and does not even recognize the Holocaust and things like that. So there is obviously a history of animosity, especially within the regime in Iran, which also calls for freeing of the Palestinian lands, which it says Israel has occupied. Obviously, there are a lot of other dynamics, and that's a different issue altogether. But one of the reasons is that Israeli, occupation, as they say, is of entire Palestinian land. So they don't recognize the right of Israel to exist. So that is one. They always call death to Israel. I mean, that all that is known. Particularly, this nuclear context is existential for Israel because Iran has this view of Israel that it should not even exist. So it becomes an existential threat for Israel. Now, so far, they have been doing shadow boxing until last year when there were a couple of exchanges. But Iran has relied on its proxies, which is Hamas and Hezbollah and some of the other Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, and then Houthis in Yemen, which is a more recent thing in the last 8-10 years. But before that, it was Hezbollah and Hamas. And Iran used these proxies as a tool to keep getting at Israel, and it was like a force multiplier for them, help project power into the region, and also it was a deterrence mechanism for Iran. Now, October 7th, 2023 changed things. Hamas attacked into Israel, and then the Israeli response. It went hard after Hamas. It really degraded the terror organization, and not only that, after that, it went after Hezbollah, and it killed the leader Hassan Nasrallah, killed his would-be second and replacement successor, Seferdin. He was also killed in an airstrike. And before that, it was preceded by the pager attack, which took out a lot of Hezbollah operatives, leaders, whoever. So Hezbollah got severely degraded, and then there were attacks after Israel attacked the embassy, Iranian embassy in Damascus. There was an exchange, and then when Hamas's leader was assassinated in Tehran, then again there was another exchange. So this was, but it was limited. Both sides engaged in one round of strikes against each other. Iranian missiles were intercepted by not only Israel but even the US and other European nations, UK, France. Everybody came in the picture to defend Israel, and this was left at last year. Now, come now, June, the probably the immediate trigger point was the IAEA report, which says Iran had kind of doubled up, or more, not doubled up. I think it had increased its enriched 60% enriched uranium stockpile from about 250 odd kgs to about 408 kgs, which would be enough to, if purified further, enriched further, would yield enough to make 9 to 10 nuclear warheads. So this was the immediate thing, and also the report also said that Iran was not in compliance with a lot of its obligations under the NPT, and then it was preceded by the talks which were happening, which with the U.S. and Trump gave 60 days to work it out, and then after that they said that the 61st day Israel attacked. A lot of things to put together. It maybe have just worked out as a coincidence, or maybe this was pre-planned. It was a diversionary tactic. Things were building up. I'm sure they were in the background, and probably Israel sees this as the most opportune time to attack Iran's nuclear facilities. I mean, this war I think was been building up for many years now. Israel has always wanted to take out Iranian nuclear facilities in a military manner. In earlier, it has also used cyber warfare. It has attacked with the Stuxnet virus, and it disabled the centrifuges over there. These are the things that have happened, but this did not completely set back the Iranian program. So now this time it is all military. It wants to eliminate. And not only has it struck the facilities, it has also gone after the scientists. I think the last count is about 9 top nuclear scientists in Iran have been killed by Israel, and these were all very precise targets. So they had good intelligence coordination, and then means to deliver the strike, which was probably with drones and things like that, which was based in Israel. So the immediate trigger, as you asked, was is probably the IA report, but I think this was building up for a very long time, and this was geopolitically the most opportune time because the world is at war. In many parts, the Russia-Ukraine war has been going on for a long time. India and Pakistan just had a skirmish, and we could call it a war, and the whole global situation is of a disorder, and it's everyone for himself. And perhaps Israel thought this is the best time to go after Iran.
Right. That provides a very comprehensive history of this conflict. You mentioned the plan or the agreement that the US had entered into with Iran, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, right? I guess from 2015 or something, which
Yeah.
had provided Tehran with extensive sanctions relief without limits on its defense, etc. But it had some temporary guardrails on enrichment. But then the US withdrew in 2018 from that agreement, from the plan of action, and reimpose sanctions. So, how much did that contribute to Iran maybe speeding up its program, if it did indeed speed up its program? And coming back to the IAEA report, did it give any sort of timeline as to when Iran would be ready with maybe nuclear weapons? And is the justification of imminent threat really a valid one that Israel, has held up?
No, so you have three questions. Did JCPOA or Trump 1.0 walking out in any way contribute to this? I think it did. Iran was then free to do whatever it wanted, and it was calibrating its approach. Right, it first enriched to 20%, and then a little higher, and then push it up all the way to 60%. Um, it's very difficult to say that is Iran sincere in this or not. I would say that it is not sincere. It is pursuing a bomb, but it has been calibrating to see in terms of where it can push the maximum and what concessions it could extract from the US. It was able to do to a certain extent with Biden releasing, frozen funds. I think that was $6 billion sometime last year. I think it was 2023. But yes, JCPOA had a bit of a mechanism to restrain in certain manner. Would it have been enough to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons? I don't think so, because IAEA has come out and said that there were secret facilities which were not declared, which shows that Iran had, other clandestine activities going on in pursuit of the bomb. So that is definitely one of the points, that Iran is pursuing a bomb. In terms of timeline, I don't think anybody can put a timeline. I mean, look, Israel has been telling that Iran is months away from a bomb for nearly 2 decades now.
Right.
So that is difficult. But now, with Iran having at least 60% enriched uranium, and the next step is to enrich it about 93%, and you have weapons grade material. And from 60 to 93%, as they say, the experts say that it's not a major leap. Going to 60% was the big thing, but 60 to 90% can be done in a matter of weeks, months. And then if your bomb design is ready, if you have everything in place, then you can weaponize it. So putting a timeline is difficult. It can be weeks, it can be months, it can be a year. But the enriched uranium exists now for Iran if it chooses to weaponize.
Right. So the justification of imminent threat seems to be somewhat valid. The justification that Israel is
It
giving
depends
for.
on I think in this one, it depends on one's perspective, right? For Israel, uh, the time to bomb Iran was probably 10 years ago. I mean, that's what they would say. They've always wanted to do this.
Right.
From an international perspective, as neutral observers, people would question either way. And if you're ally of Iran or friends of Iran, you probably say that this is unjustified. But in this, what matters is what Israel perceives, and that did it have the capability to execute such an attack. And as we see that it could do it, condemn it or what. I mean, this is how real politics is working right now. And like I said, Israel perceived that this is the best possible time in modern history to conduct such an operation, where it would say that the backlash is not going to be that great, and also Iran had been weakened with all its proxies, degraded. So this was perhaps the best possible time for Israel, in its opinion. I mean, that is what the thinking would have gone, and to attack Iran. I mean, justification for it or not is all subjective.
Right, right. So you mentioned the use of proxies by Iran. So that's always been one part of their strategy. But coming to the conventional abilities of Iran and Israel, could you maybe just give a lay of the land as to what are the conventional capabilities that Iran has and Israel has, and how do they match up? And that would also give some idea about how both these nations are faring now, right? So where do you see this war going in terms of conventional warfare? And then what could be the end game, right? And because the end game is sort of also dependent on the capabilities that they have, right? So yeah, if you could give a lay of the land about the
In
abilities.
terms of conventional capabilities, I think there is a total mismatch. I mean, Israel is really very advanced in terms of its conventional capabilities. Not only that is does it have its own very advanced military industrial complex, it also has the support of the US and weaponry coming in from there. Iran, on the other hand, its air force is 1960s and 70s era. You know what the Shah of Iran at that time had bought from the US, the F-4 Phantoms and the F-14 Tomcats, and after that, not much. So Iran has, over the years, developed this huge arsenal of ballistic missiles, short-range, medium-range ballistic missiles, which can reach Israel, and that is what we have seen over the last few days since Israel attacked Iran. So Iranian, conventional might has been all these ballistic missiles, and of course a lot of these drones, the Shahid drones that it has supplied to Russia as well. So in terms of capabilities, it's absolutely a no contest when you just weigh things out. Either Israel has the F-35s, which it used on the very first day of its operation to take out Iranian air defenses, and after that, it has been operating its other fourth generation fighters with impunity because it has managed to take out Iranian air defenses. Israel, in terms of its ballistic missile defense, and is also very advanced. It has been able to shoot down, intercept a lot of these ballistic missiles that was coming its way. It's not 100%, but whatever it could shoot down, it has managed to shoot down, and that minimizes loss on the ground. In terms of its navy, in terms of its air force. I mean, Israel is really very, very, very powerful in that regard, and also its intelligence agency is world class and can do some very audacious things, as we saw with the pager attack in Lebanon against Hezbollah, and even here. The report said that Israel had set up a drone base within Iran, actually either in Tehran or just outside Tehran, which it used to strike the military and nuclear leaders in Tehran. So all these make Israel a very, very potent force. Iran, like I said, was relying on its proxies. Yes, it has all these guys, but now it has been degraded, and now, as we can see, it has relied only on these ballistic missiles. And if you see the recent data, I mean, the number of missiles it is firing at Israel has steadily gone down, as Israel has taken out a lot of its launchers, a lot of its missile storage sites, and we don't know now what is the arsenal at its disposal to fire at Israel. Maybe it's preserving some for an enlarged conflict, but we have seen that steadily over the last few days, the number of missiles Iran is firing towards Israel has gone down.
Right, right. But by some accounts, the stockpile that still remains with Iran, around 1,400 missiles or something of that sort, is what I had read. Isn't that enough to carry on this war for some time? Because you don't need to carpet bomb like Israel did with Gaza, right? You just need to inflict enough damage, right? So in that sense, how are both these nations faring? Now, do you think? I mean, obviously, it seems Israel has the upper hand, but do you see this war dragging along, or do you see, one of these two capitulating?
It can drag. I mean, that is a fear. It can drag. I think this is a war of wills as well, as much as anything else. What Iran is trying to do is attack all Israeli population centers and see if it can break the will of the people of Israel, who can then pressure the government to stop. But so far that is not visible. What Israel also has a very strong civil defense system, where it has built all these bomb shelters, because it has been attacked by Hezbollah and Hamas all over all these years with their rockets. They have a number of these shelters where all the citizens just go to protect themselves. So that's the reason why, despite so many of these strikes hitting buildings, a lot of destruction in Tel Aviv, for example, the loss of lives has been minimal because of these bomb shelters. So that's the reason why they are able to absorb a bit of these strikes that Iran is conducting. It looks spectacular on some of the footage that we've seen. These hypersonic missiles striking at great speed and causing a big explosion. It is able to, yes, knock off a lot of buildings, but in terms of lives lost, it has been minimal, because Israel has this very vast setup of defenses, where people, even in their homes, they have protected areas, they have underground shelters and things like that. So that is the reason why Israel has been able to hold up. If you look at the other way around, we have seen some pictures of people in Tehran fleeing the city. Trump has warned, so I mean, maybe that played an effect. All kinds of things are happening. So ultimately, it's going to boil down to the will of both the people as well as the government to continue the war. And we've seen, as far as Israel goes, they've been fighting since October 7th, and they don't seem to be stopping. I mean, Netanyahu just wants to keep going on and make sure he achieves all kinds of objectives that he has set out for himself and for Israel. And there seems to be no stopping them right now. It's Iran which will probably have to take a call. Trump has given about 2 weeks now to see if Iran comes to the negotiating table before the US itself gets involved. Because for this operation, this war to be successful against Iranian nukes, uh, they require to take out the Fordo facility, and that only a US bunker buster bombs that can take out. So Israel is kind of trying to get the US on its side and see if it can strike that facility. Trump is trying to buy some time and see if diplomacy works, but it's unlikely to work, because the condition that Trump has said is total surrender, unconditional surrender, as you want to call it. That will be too much for the regime, because which it will weaken it domestically as well, and that will have its own consequences.
Right, right. So this angle of the domestic politics in Iran is also interesting, right? So there have been some protests against the regime within Iran. The position of the clerics, Khomeini and others who are heading Iran right now is also maybe not very strong at this moment. Maybe you can shed some light on that. But is it enough to cause a regime change? And is this attack counterintuitively going to lead to a coalescing of support for Khamenei and the clerical regime?
All of this is possible, right? I mean, if Iran as their identity, if they see this as a big threat to them, they'll probably rally around. I mean, they surely have differences. I mean, it's a very unpopular kind of a regime, with a vast majority of Iranians don't like this regime. Their voter turnout is very less, and it's all rigged, right? It's all set up, who's going to, contest, and there's limitations and things like that. So that is obviously there. But, a section of Iranians would probably be happy if this regime goes. I don't think they care. If you read some of the initial days, the kind of attitude towards the war, people said, "Don't target us. If you have to take out a regime, do it." Things that kind of a thing. But there will be domestic consequences, and it could work in multiple ways. I wrote an article very recently where I said, the three possibilities are either the regime goes, or it whatever remains of it, then they double down on the repression, or third, maybe just come to some kind of a new arrangement with the people where the clerics take a back seat. They probably are more like figureheads or religious heads, and not political heads, and not dictating the lives of ordinary Iranians in terms of the policy, in terms of how the women women's rights and things like that. So maybe this is also a possibility, but I still don't rule out that Israel can target the Ayatollah himself. I mean, that possibility existed on day one. It still exists today. I think, as it's been reported, it's Trump which held Netanyahu back from ordering a strike on the Ayatollah. But I don't think you can completely discount the possibility of Israel actually targeting Ayatollah. And as we've seen with all these attacks on its nuclear scientists and military leaders, it has managed to kill all the leaders. It killed the chief of staff. It killed the replacement of the chief of staff. It has gone after the IRGC leader. It killed them. Quds Force gone. So these guys are good with their intelligence, and they have the means to deliver a strike. So if the Ayatollah is killed, then there will be a vacuum. I'm sure that if Israel goes after the Ayatollah, it's not going to be just him, but maybe even the second in command, or maybe the top leadership, clerical leadership that is there, and that will create a big vacuum. And then how the Iranian military reacts is going to be different. You have to remember that IRGC, which is very loyal to Ayatollah, is different from Iranian military, which is far more broad-based. And things could take a turn from there. We don't know how it can all pan out. I mean, all possibilities are open, and we'll have to see how this pans out. But it's a very volatile situation, very dynamic situation. I don't think anybody can predict anything. But there are a number of possibilities, like I said.
Right, right, and just like you mentioned, so these new methods of warfare, right? They have thrown up some really interesting, surprising tactics being employed, right? Right from as you mentioned, Israel and earlier Ukraine also penetrating into enemy territory to carry out attacks using drones, etc. Then you've also had these targeted assassinations, and as you mentioned, there are also rumors of Israel attempting maybe the assassination of the Ayatollah himself, right? So what are some of these out of the box or new age strategies and tactics that stand out in recent conflicts? And this could include even the recent India Pakistan war, right? And when I say strategies, it's not just the technical or the modern advanced weapons related strategies, but also tactics in terms of taking out leaders, etc., right? So what are these new methods of warfare, and where do you see this going ahead, right? So drones, for example, seems to be something that's here to stay, and there seems to be a free for all, right? Free for all sort of world where any sort of action is now seeming to be legitimate, right?
You nailed it right there, right? I mean, this is the world we are in right now, where old conventions, rule of law, or international law, all this has been thrown out of the window, and we've seen ballistic missile attacks on cities. Russia did this. Iran is doing it to Israel. We saw attempt by Pakistan to target Delhi with ballistic missiles. So some of the old things that were probably a taboo, or maybe someone thought it's not possible at all for ballistic missiles to fly at each other's cities, that we can safely say has been thrown out of the window, and it's kind of normalized. People are not even saying anything about these ballistic missile strikes on population centers in cities. So That is one. And from there, I mean, it's more about, innovative ways of doing things. Ukraine has shown the extensive use of drones on the battlefield, inside Russia, under the sea, and it has taken out even warships of Russia with unmanned vessels. So it's about applying mind, coming up with new ideas and executing them. And it's also to do it on the cheap. I mean, if you see Ukraine, it used 117, as per their claims, 117 drones, which cost about $1,000 each to take out nearly $7 billion worth of Russian strategic bombers. That's a huge operation. I mean, it went far into Russian territories. One of the bases is nearly 4,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, and they were able to pull it off. So, with all kinds of modern tools, and now you also have AI, drones which can be autonomous. Anything is possible. You just require motivated people to execute tasks given to them. Where it will lead, we don't know, because like I said, all conventions are gone. It's a free for all, and we are in a world where conflicts are going to rise, because people would see this as their opportunity to do things. Earlier, you would see there were just the two superpowers in the Cold War, and then they fought proxy wars, but things did not escalate to, where it was a free for all, because one side or the other got involved and made sure, there was some order. In the unipolar moment, again, there was conflict, yes, but it was not free for all. But now it seems that the US itself does not care about, despite Trump's claim of, trying to stop all wars and getting involved and things like that. But as we see, people who want to act in a way that secures their objectives, if it's by use of force, they are going ahead and doing it. I mean, even the terror attack we saw in Pahalgam, it happened after many, many, many years. I mean, the last attack of this scale on civilians was Mumbai 2008. After that, yes, there were terror attacks, but they were on security forces. But this was the very targeted killing of civilians in Pahalgam. So this is, again, it's kind of with every country thinking that this is the time to do things that they would perhaps not have done in an earlier time, which makes the situation very dangerous. I mean, the next could be, people have anyway saying that, China could invade Taiwan by 2027. I wouldn't rule that possibility out, because everybody would think that this is their best time right now. This is their window of opportunity.
So, this was part one of a two-part series on the Israel-Iran war. We hope you enjoyed listening to it. Do tune in tomorrow for the second and final part of this two-part series. We hope you enjoy that too. Thank you.
If you liked our show, dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs. Check us out at our Twitter handle @TakshashilaInst or our website takshashila.org.in.